It's to step through a workflow of how geoid model development can be done. And this is some guidance that we're looking to provide, particularly for developing countries, because this can be a really challenging exercise for them to get their head around how to do it, and what sort of data is needed to go through this process. So I wanted to present what I have so far, but I'm really interested in hearing your thoughts on how we could enhance the training, particularly for these other regions. I mean, you're quite lucky in the European region with what you have access to. I'd be interested in knowing if you can give us some advice on how we can enhance this material before we share it further around the world. So this is a slightly different version of what I presented before, where you're bringing together these different techniques. And as you can see on the right-hand side, you get an extra level of detail, effectively, as you collect these different wavelengths as part of the physical height system. So you got your GRACE and GOCHE observations up top. You then bring in some terrestrial observations, and you get a little bit more detail that's coming out around the geoid model, and then you can include the terrestrial data as well, and it brings out a lot more granularity. So here's an example of a process that you can go through to bring all this data together for the development of a regional or a national geoid model. And this was the one my colleagues in Australia used, and this touches on some of the points that Johannes just made, which are really helpful. And that is around so terrestrial data, first of all, using a national gravity database. That's essential. You need to make sure that you have access to that and you understand the quality of the data that's in that. And I'm sure many of you would agree that the quality is not even when you look back through national gravity databases. In particular, sometimes they lack a lot of the metadata you need because they may not have a position associated with the gravity observation, or you may not know what technique that they used or the measurement instrument that they used. You then bring in your airborne gravity data. In this case, we use satellite altimetry free air anomaly data, which was a 1-minute grid from the DNSC-08 model, and then a digital elevation model, as you mentioned before, which is critical as you go through the compute step that I'll take you through in a minute. In terms of the global gravity model, they adopted this new other GOCHE model for exactly the reason Johannes mentioned before, that it wasn't as biased with some of the other data that was already existing in the global gravity model, and it wasn't mixed in with some of the terrestrial and airborne gravity that we had in EGM-08. So in terms of the steps that you're looking to go through, you can use a whole range of different techniques. Up the top right is some examples of some of the instruments you can use. Many countries, I'm sure, have some sort of absolute gravimeter across Europe, but that's not necessarily the case in other parts of the world. So it's pleasing to see that there's a range of loan programs available for developing countries to get access to absolute gravimetry. I've seen that work quite well in South America. I think they've done a great job in collaboration with some European countries to share absolute gravimetry and data and expertise, which is wonderful. And then you can have these range of different airborne gravimeters, like a strap-down box or a stabilized airborne gravimeter platform. That's where you're combining things like the IMU, of the inertial measurement unit of the plane, along with some GPS data. So there's 3 sort of steps that you traditionally go through when it comes to regional or national scale geoid modelling, and that's the remove, compute and restore technique. So first of all, what you do is you need to remove the effects of topography and also the low degree global component, as we mentioned, the global geospatial model signals, because what you want to be left with is these residual gravity anomalies that you can see in the second image there that come after the removal of the global component. What happens then is that for the compute step, you can go through a process like Stokes integration, or you can use least squares collocation, which is what we have recently moved across to. Initially, we used Stokes just because computationally it's simpler. but we found that the least squares collocation was giving us better and more accurate results once we could make that code base more efficient. So we've moved to using a least squares collocation process in Australia. And what happens in this step is that the small differences that you can see in the gravity anomalies, in the residual gravity anomalies in the second image, they're actually indicating how much actual gravity varies from the smooth gravity model of the surface. So we're using some mathematics to convert these gravity anomalies into geoid variations. So it's changing. If you have a look at the units, it's a process where you're using collocation to switch between, and you're applying the mathematical model to switch between defining something in milligauss to converting that into a geoid height, and that happens in that middle compute step. You then restore the global component again, and then that brings the final geoid model together to create that regional or national geoid variation model. Excuse me. So here's an example where some of that has been done using a whole range of different data sets. And in Australia, over New South Wales was the example here. They received funding to capture gravity data over the state. And this was the first time that gravity data had been captured for positioning purposes in Australia. Prior to that, all the gravity capture that had been for the minerals and resource sectors, so that they could identify coal deposits or mineral deposits or gas deposits in different parts of the country. They got the money to capture this data set based on the concept that they would have improved modelling for things like digital twin developments across their state. They were spending a lot of money on digital twin, and they wanted to do modelling, and they wanted to do physical geodesy modelling, not just modelling at the geometric level. So that meant they needed to have a better height datum throughout the state. So this was quite innovative, and it was wonderful to see that the business case was put together, not just getting the money for digital twin, but they asked for money for the digital twin and the gravity modelling together, knowing that you needed both to deliver the final outcome. So we were very proud to assist them. All we did was the technical part. They did all the business case development from the state, and from the federal side, we assisted them with the construction of the model. And so here's an example, just for those who might be interested in looking. That remove, compute, restore method that I just walked you through, a copy of that source code is available with the least squares collocation technique built into it. This is, it's called the Analysis Ready Gravity Data Workflow, and this is in GitHub. So it's been made freely available to the community. It's been put together predominantly through two of my colleagues, Neda and Jack, who I used to work with at Geoscience Australia. And again, we're very proud to make this information freely and openly available to the community. I know they're still working on developing it. I think they have a range of different demos in there and some sample data sets they can use. So for those of you who are in universities, this could be the kind of tool you might want to use for a tutorial or something to walk people through how to develop a geoid model using some sample data that's available in there. And equally, we're looking to try and share this with people from developing countries who we know have a lot of trouble developing these types of techniques. I'm very appreciative of people like René Forsberg, who do a lot of work and make their time available to help people from developing countries, but there's not enough Renés to go around. He's been a good friend of ours in helping us in Australia, and my colleague Jack, and I'm hoping that he would approve of us making stuff like this available so we can help people from a whole range of different countries. So I'm happy to stop there, and I've got a couple of questions that I'll pop up on the screen, and that surrounds, I'm interested. This is an opportunity for me and my team to learn more about what's the situation like in Europe, how accurate is things like the vertical reference frame in your country. Do you have like a local version, or do you have a local geoid model that you've built on top of AVRF? I'm really keen to understand what the situation's like in your countries and how accurate your height systems are and whether or not you see any issues that we could potentially discuss as a community.